What's up, everybody? It is hot. It's smoking hot, actually. We're in the dead of summer, but you know what that means? It is watermelon season. And today, I'm going to be talking to you about how to grow watermelons in raised beds. Stay tuned. Hey, first off, if you've been watching these videos and getting value from them, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, notification bell, so you can get updates about every time we release a video. Now, some people would argue that you can't grow watermelons in raised beds, but I'm here to prove the naysayers wrong. Watermelons actually love well-drained soil. It's not that they don't love water, that, you know, clay holds water. But if you arrange your beds like I have with mushroom compost and topsoil, you get to water often, which is what they like, but the soil drains out really, really fast. Now, the key to growing watermelons in raised beds is that you let them spill out over the side and have a place for them to run. You see, I've prepared this area here with black landscape fabric and then pine needles on top of that, so you don't have all those weeds shooting up through it like you would in a traditional garden. In this bed, I actually have 6 watermelons planted on the first half. The second half is tomatoes, so I'm still making good use of my room. But this is just an 8-foot bed, and 6 healthy watermelon plants will actually produce a lot of watermelons. If you'll walk over here, I'll show you some that's already growing. All right, so if you look right here, I've got this guy growing, and he's a pretty good size for the beginning of July, and right out beside him is another one. If you can see that there. I don't know if you can see that or not. But notice where they're at. They're touching the ground, which means there's not a lot of strain on the vine. If you got a watermelon growing, you know, halfway between the top of your raised bed and the bottom, you're going to have a lot of tug on that vine and potentially even disconnecting itself from the vine or pulling your vine out of the raised bed. So the goal really is to have them growing out in here on the ground, or you could actually have them growing on top of your raised bed. You can see I've got this one here. That's okay too. I wouldn't want a lot there, but you have to have, you know, them growing up here or down there, nothing in the middle. Now, watermelons, when you first plant them, are slow to start. You wonder if they're ever going to grow. But once it gets hot, they tend to be a little bit aggressive. So one thing I have to come out here and do almost on a daily basis is move these vines that are growing where we don't want them to grow back out onto the ground. You can see through here, they're already, I mean, I just did this the other day, growing back into the raised bed. If you don't, they'd be choking out your tomato plants and you'd have all kinds of mess. And I like to keep it clean. So once a day, any of the vines that's wanting to be a little bit aggressive, you know, I just move them back out, growing towards the ground. You can see this guy here, he's already latched onto this tomato plant. We'll move him back out onto the ground. And this is just something you have to do, but it's not that aggravating if you stay on top of it. Now, as I mentioned earlier, watermelons do enjoy a lot of water, and in growing watermelons in raised beds or containers, you do have to water often. I'll come out here and water these every day to every other day. And you also have to feed your watermelons if you don't have really nutrient rich soil. I just filled these beds with mushroom compost this year, so I'm not really feeding these. But if you feel like your soil's kind of leached of nutrients, you do want to feed with an all-purpose fertilizer during the growing season. Now, everything I've talked to you about with the watermelon vines actually applies to cantaloupes too. This is where I'm growing my cantaloupes. I don't have any cantaloupes to show you yet because I actually grew these from seed, and I grew those from starter plants. So these are a little bit further behind, but it's the same principle. Keep your vines trained out onto the ground, keep them watered good, keep them fed, and you can grow cantaloupes just as easily in raised beds. Hey, thanks for watching this video about how to grow watermelons and cantaloupes in raised beds. Check back later on in the season and I'll be talking about how to know when the watermelons and cantaloupes are ripe for the picking. Stay tuned.